Welcome to another episode of In Your Business. I always start with saying we're going to meet with an interesting entrepreneur, but today I already know this entrepreneur pretty well, so it's actually going to be more interesting for you as the audience to learn about this entrepreneur. When we talk about entrepreneurship, it's interesting because entrepreneurs have a tendency to think many different ways at different times, and they're always creating something new. And so you may speak with them tonight and really think you've got their idea, but by next week, they'll have something else on their mind. And that's kind of the way today's entrepreneur works as well. Ed DeLaPaz, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you for having me.
Ed, the reason I say that is I've known you for several years. I don't know what was the first year that I met you. You were a student here at the university.
Yeah, it was actually my freshman year. It would have been around 2008.
Okay,
so
2008, you take me almost all the way back to the start of the show even. So, but welcome back to the show today. And we're going to learn about you as an entrepreneur. But before we do that, I want to learn about you growing up. So did you grow up here in the Richmond area?
Well, so I'm technically from Newcastle, Indiana, but I came to Richmond my 8th grade year. So 8th, 9th, 10th grade was here in Richmond, but I ended up graduating from Union in Modoc, Indiana.
Okay, so Modoc's a fairly small school, but it's a really great community, not too far from Richmond.
Yeah, there was 26 people in my graduating class.
That's quite a difference in the sizes. So when you were just a child growing up, what were you thinking you wanted to be?
I wanted to be a cartoonist. So I used to clip out all the Garfield comics and all the Calvin and Hobbes comics, and that was my entire goal, was to just do not web comics, but like comics for the newspaper. But by the time I got to high school and was going to college, we were told newspapers are going to be obsolete. They're not going to exist. So I couldn't really go for that type of career. So I ended up, originally was going to go to the Dayton Institute of Art. But I instead went over to a college over in Columbus, Ohio. I only took about a semester, and then me and my stepbrothers all dropped out to start our own business and things like that. So it was an interesting experience. That was before I realized I didn't know anything about business. So I did a couple of those small little entrepreneurship type things, but never really got anywhere. Ended up moving back home to Richmond and then going to IU East to finish my degree, roughly when I was about 25, 26. So I finally got my degree when I was 30, stuff like that. So since then, I've been kind of just doing all these different things involved in the community, even working for WCTV after I graduated. And then I spent a couple of years as the marketing director for the Wayne County Area Chamber of Commerce. And that's where I started making a lot of the connections with the local community and leading up a lot of the buy local efforts in Richmond and Wayne County.
Wow. So you've taken us quite a ways there in a very short time. We're going to come back to a lot of that. But so you mentioned, though, you and your stepbrothers created a business. What was that business?
So it wasn't we created a business. It was a multi-level marketing company. So, they came in and was like, oh, yeah, we can sell these products online, right? So it was kind of at the start of that whole revelation of, hey, people will buy stuff online if you offer that product. Because before Amazon really got big, Amazon was kind of just known as you go on there, you buy books.
Right.
It didn't become this huge multi-platform. This is before Walmart.com and all the big shops had their websites online where you can just basically shop. Heck, you can even like shop and online have it delivered, or you just go pick it up. It's like pretty engaged that way. But before all of that, we were looking at, okay, how can we get people to buy soap and healthcare products online and stuff like that? So
you're speaking to the years, because you're right. You came here in 2008, but I remember in 2008 I was still taking students to a room and teaching them how to do things like PowerPoint. The internet was really just starting to take off. We were having the dial-ups and such, but we didn't have what we have today when it comes to social media. We didn't have the platforms like the Amazons that was really taken off. So things have changed incredibly much since you started here in 2008.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
You've been in the right position to take advantage of that as an entrepreneur and to totally enjoy it.
Well,
So,
it's also more about just kind of recognizing the opportunities too, because like for instance, the position at the Chamber of Commerce, they had no clue that I was even interested in that position. At all, or even I had a marketing background because I was working here in television. So they always see me, oh, tech guy, and doing stuff like that. They didn't think that, oh, Ed has a degree in business. He's taking classes with Tim through his entrepreneurship program. That he has any interest in this type of stuff. So it was
sure.
more so of just kind of realizing that that was an opportunity, and then actually pursuing that too.
So I know in college you were very, very active. You helped a lot with neighborhoods as well as, with business. And so let's talk just briefly about that experience while you were in college.
Yeah, so my time before I came back to school, I worked for the YMCA. So I managed 3 of their childcare sites at Crestdale, Charles, and CN, and then I was the night person down at the YMCA when it was downtown and stuff like that. So that experience of like just working with the youth kind of led into my role when I was actually at IU East. I was the kind of the site coordinator for the Baxter Neighborhood Help Center. And that kind of took that from rather just having and developing programs for kids to actually developing programs for the community and those that are in the need in the area. So that was kind of an eye-opening experience. I served on the Service Learning Committee. I served on Criterion 5, I think it was called, for IU East as a student. So I was starting to kind of see how funds are allocated, how things work behind the scenes through my experience of being like a work study here at IU East.
Sure. And I think those experiences serves as a foundation then for you to start growing and doing other things. Because I think those experiences you just described gave you the opportunity then to use those tools in a different way. Following graduation, I know you said you worked here at WCTV, but let's start talking about some of those positions you've held.
Oh, well, I've only held 2 jobs since I graduated in 2012. Yeah, which was I was here at WCTV, and then I was the marketing director for the Chamber of Commerce. And those are the only 2 jobs I've had post graduation.
But those are very important jobs because, again, those have led you to where you're at today. So let's talk about where you're at today.
Okay.
When we do that, let's start with the fact that you started your own business, okay? And let's talk about what that business is.
Yeah, so CityLife Studios, or CityLife.fyi. So it's a photography business. I originally started out with an idea of I wanted to talk about how cool Richmond and Wayne County is because through my time at the Chamber, I kept on hearing there's nothing to do, there's nowhere to go, there's nothing happening. And I look at my calendar, I'm like, every single day I'm busy with something, and I'm scheduled to go to an event or do something every single weekend. So my goal was to blog, right? I was going to write all these blogs about it. Well, I'm a horrible writer, but I'm good at taking photographs, and I have the graphic design background. So it turned into being just a photography blog. So now as I go around and I'm participating in the community, I started taking photos. So everywhere I went for a couple years, for 2 years, of just uploading photos of here's all the cool stuff that's happening, which kind of involved in being an actual studio where now I have clients. And not only am I doing CityLife work to kind of promote the community, I also have a handful of businesses and not-for-profits that I work with to kind of promote their message, promote what they're doing, and also using my photography skills to kind of highlight those efforts.
And I find it interesting because as a true entrepreneur, I find you in so many different locations. And so just a few days ago, I ran into you and I said, where's your office now? Because your office seems to move wherever you are. And I know coffee shops become your office, different places are your office.
Yeah, so I've tried to make everything as mobile as possible. So while I have a technical office in the Main Street Resource Center downtown, I can do everything from a tablet or a laptop. So I have a mobile tablet suitcase or backpack, and I have a backpack dedicated just to photography. So a lot of times I can just take, as long as I have internet, I can pretty much work from anywhere. I don't need to be at my office at all times.
Okay. So that's the great part about the technology we were speaking about.
Yeah. The idea, I joined a Facebook group years ago called Nomads, which was about tech nomads, or like working off of like the normal traditional office space. So I've tried not to really rely too much on having to be in a physical location. Now, there's advantages and disadvantages, especially in photography. I'm more of an event photographer than I am like a studio photographer. So I don't have like the green screen setups. I don't have a lot of the stuff that you would normally find in a studio that does like portraits or weddings or anything of that type of manner.
Okay. So that's, again, that mobile side. So you're involved with those activities. So what else are you doing today?
So some of the major projects I've been working on the last couple of years has been the Richmond Meltdown. So I lead the marketing efforts for that, including designing all the posters, billboards, kind of getting the message out, working with the local businesses on what events and projects that they want to kind of promote, and actually working on the schedule of what it looks like when someone comes to town and they're wanting to spend a weekend here in Richmond.
Okay. So a typical day, what does a typical day look like for you?
Typically, I wake up in the morning. That's the first thing. And then I usually stop down by Roscoe's and grab either a drink or a smoothie. And then depending upon what my meetings are for that day. So I usually do client visits. So a couple of my clients, such as Retro Rush Arcade, I can usually go in there and kind of find out what new products are in, what are we promoting, what events are we doing coming up, and then I start, usually we'll spend about half an hour or so at the clients and then start working from there. And stuff like that. So I do have standing meetings. So board meetings usually typically happen at the same time every month. Beyond that, then once I've done all my visits, done all my meetings, I usually will go set up somewhere, which will probably either be like the Downtown Deli or Susie's Pizza or Roscoe's or Fifth Street Bagel. And then I'll usually work for as amount of time that is needed, and then typically events happen roughly around the 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. So if there's an event, then I try to finish my work, and then I go off and I photograph the event. So then the following day, usually I'll allocate time that I will work from my office or home office, editing and prepping those photos for release.
Okay. So being an entrepreneur gives you that freedom and flexibility to where you can schedule like that, or maybe not even schedule, just kind of freelance it.
Yeah.
But let's talk about that. What do you enjoy about being an entrepreneur?
What do I enjoy about it? I am not stuck in the 9 to 5. Even though I probably work a lot more than 40 hours a week. I mean, I work every single day, even Saturdays and Sundays. Most events happen on Saturdays and Sundays. So the closest I get to a day off would probably be Monday mornings when I wake up, because there's no meetings going on, and stuff like that. But the fact that I don't have to be at one place from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. every single day kind of gives me that freedom to kind of build my schedule.
Okay, so that's the thing that you really enjoy. So let's talk about some of the challenges.
So you go from having one boss to having multiple bosses. So that's one thing I've learned, is that every single client, every single contract that I pick up, every single event is a new boss, per se. And sometimes, as with my experience and and everything, I might make suggestions or make recommendations based upon what I've known has worked in the past. And when I present those and they go, no, we want to go this way, and you kind of have to go with that. And you kind of have to either work with your clients on saying, hey, this is why I make those recommendations. But the final say usually comes down to them. So that's usually the challenge. But I've also learned through that process, though, too, is that the more and the longer I've worked with them, the more they're willing to trust me and understand. And a lot of times, whenever things don't go as they planned, we'll reflect back and kind of saying, hey, this is why I made these recommendations. This is where we're at. But no matter what happens, I still try to reach the goal and the objectives of what the client wants.
Okay. So do you have employees?
No employees.
Okay. So you're not having to work with that side of it.
No, and I'm fine with that. So yeah, there's a lot of projects I have turned down because I knew I would not be able to handle that workload. And I've done that on purpose because I really don't want to take on more than what I can handle. And working with employees is something that I've seen multiple times with businesses. And a lot of the time of management is managing people. So I'd rather use my time more efficiently, more effectively to solve the problems of my clients than to focus on employee issues.
Okay. So it's interesting, though, as I'm listening, and I'm hearing your schedule, and it sounds great, and I know why you enjoy entrepreneurship, but I also think it sounds very stressful. There's got to be some stress in there because, you may have a very busy day on Tuesday and Wednesday, and somebody may contact you on Wednesday and say, I have to have this now. What do you do?
I get it done. Simple as that.
But you have to move something around. You have to adjust.
Well, so I mean, the clients I work with, they understand that what the contract is, right? I'm not 100% on demand, and they all understand that, and we work through that. But there are times in which I may be somewhere, and I had to go to Dayton this Monday for a project, and then something came up, and I had to stop what I was doing, and then allocated 10 minutes to be able to solve this problem for a different client. And that's happened, and like I said, most of the clients kind of understand that, and most of my clients, it's not like it's a huge, like I'm mostly just doing like the social media marketing, graphic design, more event stuff rather than doing day-to-day operations or anything that needed an actual immediate thing done right at that time.
Okay. So what is stress to you? Each of us deal with stress in a different way. And so it sounds like that's not a stressor for you to have to, change that quickly. So what would you think does create stress for you?
Just meeting the expectations of my clients. I always want to make sure that everything I do is to the best of my ability. And if I am working on a timeline and I have to get something out, or even if I do present it and I'll present 3 to 4 different options. And while there might be an option that I'm 100% behind, that this is the way I think we should go, if they choose a different option, then we have to run with that. And while I'll give it to my best, I still sometimes feel that I can give this 100%, but this may have been 110%.
Mm-hmm. So you know in your heart that you might have been able to do it a little better.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Okay, so I do get that. So thinking back to when you were at university, you were taking the classes. I mean, each university is going to have, pretty much a standard format we follow. You're going to have finance, you're going to have marketing, you're going to have accounting, you're going to also have speech, you're going to have writing, math, all those classes. First of all, what class was your favorite?
So the interesting thing that's kind of put this all into motion was I had one elective my senior year, final semester. So I just took a random introduction to photography class. Took the class, and 2 weeks before the end of the class, my professor asked me, have you thought about switching your major to photography? And I said, I would if I wasn't graduating in 2 weeks. So that kind of laid the groundwork for me to realize that, hey, I might be able to turn the photography side of things into an actual career piece of it and stuff like that.
So that worked out perfect for you.
Yeah, yeah. It was something I never anticipated when I went back to college. I thought I was going to go back to my degree, and then I'd go back to the YMCA and then start like running the YMCA. That was what I thought was going to happen, and everything. So
Oh, we never know. That's
Right.
that's part of the fun of me here at the university is I don't know what's going to happen with the students' careers,
Yeah.
but I know they're going to enjoy them just as you have.
Mhm.
But let's also look at those classes because are you feeling like you're gaining some benefit from those? I know a lot of times maybe somebody may not prefer one of the classes, maybe they enjoy the other class, but
Yeah.
at some point maybe you didn't want to do the accounting, but you learned enough to understand when you have a good accountant around you.
Yeah. Well, so when I went back to school, like I said, I started going back when I was 25. And so I kind of had an idea of what I wanted to achieve. So I made my own schedule. So I went through, I said, okay, I grabbed the paperwork that says, this is what you need to do to graduate. These are the classes. And I did it myself. I didn't know until my senior semester that I was supposed to be meeting with an advisor. Yeah. So I was supposed to meet with an advisor. I just did it myself, and so I just was choosing things. So my approach to back to college was probably a little bit differently because I kind of self-guided myself through that entire process. I actually had to track down one of my professors during my last semester and be like, "Hey, I'm supposed to get approval on this so that I can graduate." And fortunately, they understood like through everything and like, and yeah, this works. Like what you did, it was perfectly fine. So I was able to graduate and stuff like that. So that's not something I really would recommend, but it just kind of shows that people can make their own paths. You don't have to follow exactly what they say is recommended, as long as you meet the guidelines that's recommended.
Didn't realize it, but you might be the reason because, back in the day, we didn't have advising holds. You could do just what you said.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of students today have advising holds, so they have to meet with their advisor. Ed,
Yeah.
you may have created that.
Oh, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, so
They let me sign up for classes, and I went, and like I said, it wasn't until my senior year and my graduating, I found out the paperwork to actually graduate, and they're like, "Oh, you haven't met with any advisors. We need at least an advisor sign off."
Yeah.
So yeah.
Well, very good. I'm glad you did well and that you
Yeah.
enjoyed it. So let's talk about some of your successes now because I know that you've been racking up several. So you've been doing
Yeah.
great quality work. You've been working in the community, doing a lot of great things for different entrepreneurs. So let's talk about some of those successes.
Yeah, definitely. So a couple of the things was I received the Chamber's Buy Local Bob Rosa Award a couple years ago. So this is given to someone who has had an impact with buy local efforts and everything. So through our effort through the Richmond UEA, they've funded a lot of the different projects. They're one of my clients too. I manage a lot of their grants process and everything for them. We've been able to have a lot of impact on a lot of the different communities, the downtown, the Depot District, and Star neighborhood. So along with that, the Richmond Meltdown is a great example that people kind of are starting to think about Richmond as in, oh, every year they have that cool ice festival. And then I've started in the last couple of years working with actual for-profit businesses because starting off my connections were all in the non-for-profits. So I worked mostly with non-for-profits. But in the last 2 years, I started working with businesses that are actual like businesses to draw customers. Retro Rush Arcade is an example that I talked about earlier, and then We Clean LLC. We Clean LLC approached me, and I originally told them no. I was like, I don't know anything about cleaning. I know nothing about what you need to do in order to hit all the stuff that you needed to do. I was like, I'm not the right fit. I don't know anything about that world. But about 6 months later, they approached me again. And I was like, you know what? Maybe this is an opportunity for me to learn. So I took them on as a client. And the first thing I started doing was market research on all of their competitors. And not just competitors locally, but across the nation. So I was looking at how does cleaning companies market their business in California? How do they do it in Pennsylvania, Cincinnati, Indianapolis, Washington, D.C. So I started looking at these and started noticing different trends that that was successful in those areas, and things that was not done, and things that was not done locally. So we use this as a vantage point to create an entirely new marketing strategy to kind of say, hey, we're not just a cleaning company, but we're the community cleaning company. So we started getting Curtis Mikesell, who is the owner and manager of We Clean, to do a ribbon cutting, to get connected in the community. They're now one of the leading sponsors for Girls Inc. I now get them and the staff to volunteer at the Gleaners food giveaway and to be a part of all the different things that happen in the community. And through that, several clients of theirs have approached them because it's like, I now see you in the community. I see you're part of the good things that you're doing, and I'm interested in finding out exactly what you do for your clients. And everything like that. So that's kind of a success story is what we've done building up that company.
So it's kind of interesting because just listening to you say that, okay, reminds me of the fact that when I'm normally sitting with an entrepreneur, learning about their business, that's exactly what the entrepreneur would be saying to me. This is what we're involved in. This is what we're doing. This is how we're doing it and such, okay? Mm-hmm. You kind of sound like you're almost a partner. You sound like you're part of that entrepreneurship, which is awesome, okay? Because of what you're doing as a freelance, you're actually getting into their business and becoming passionate about their business. The fact that you had to turn them down and 6 months later come back to it actually symbolizes what I teach in a classroom and what I do on a university campus, because entrepreneurship is a foundation, okay? Every business is going to look different. And if you can understand business, then you can adapt to all those things. You understand what you're doing. You understand the marketing side. You understand all of the things that you bring to the table. They ask you to bring it to their table, and you are. And that's making them successful. At the same time, it's making you successful. So it's two entrepreneurs basically working together.
Yeah, definitely. And I do that for all my clients.
And see, I think that's probably what's really exciting for you, because we talk about what's exciting in entrepreneurship. Well, it's the clients that you represent. Mm-hmm. And that's your business. Yeah.
Like I said, when people ask me, like, well, what do I do? And I go, really, what I do is I'm helping people, and I'm solving problems. And that's the best thing I can do. Curtis can call me anytime, day or night. He has a question about anything, and I work him through those questions.
Great.
And I will do the market research for him. I'll look into the data. I'll make recommendations. This is a good idea. This is a bad idea. Maybe we go in this different direction, and do the same for the Retro Rush Arcade. And even recently, actually, where I ran into you a couple weeks ago at Table Games, which is next to Susie's Pizza, and I helped both Susie's Pizza and Table Games kind of get off the ground and start getting things moving forward and stuff like that.
Ed, you're doing a great job. Thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you.
This concludes another episode of In Your Business. Today we met with Ed DeLaPaz, and Ed is doing a wonderful job, not only in his own business, but also helping other entrepreneurs in the community. So I hope that you enjoyed this episode of In Your Business.